and we are back on the Sleepless Pod. Um, this week it is just myself. Unfortunately, Robin couldn't make it, but I do have the privilege of being joined by our guest for this episode, Ben Pelchat.
Merci.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. That's
Great.
the first time ever.
The first time.
It's a French name.
It's a French name. So I guess to start with, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners?
Yeah, so I'm a music producer and artist out of Toronto. I actually live in Collingwood now, but hailed for years from Toronto. And long time working at Kensington Sound, which is one of the legendary studios in Toronto. So I've had a really, really fortunate time, becoming partner there, and got to work with a lot of great artists through that process. And and now I do a ton of production, mixing, and artist development with new artists. And I've got my own band, My Sugar, and my own solo project, and a funk electro rock band called Rats of the Universe.
Oh, so, nice. Everyone make sure to go check them out. So I saw you describe yourself as a music designer.
Yes.
What is that?
So a music designer is an umbrella term that I came up with to kind of avoid the jack of all trades kind of labeling.
Okay.
The modern music industry now is essentially versatility required.
Gotcha.
You need to be
you
well versed in this. Exactly.
Yeah, you have to do
well versed in that.
Right.
And so, I wanted to do a term that would kind of encompass the things that I do. So, for instance, I do, everything from the development side of the artist to helping them with the songwriting, to then building the track in the production realm, mixing it and mastering. And so I can kind of take things from, 0 to 100. And, in the past, I think that had taken a lot of people to go from those, those 0 to 100 steps. But now I think just with the way the world is, we need to be more versatile in general. So I wanted to.
And how did you get to that point where you were able to offer, be this designer, able to step in at multiple points during the music making process? Did you go to school, or are you just self-trained, or?
Yeah, I went to school at Trebas in Montreal back in the day. I was a musician first and foremost, so, but I didn't want to go to school for music. I wanted to go to school for learning how to record my own music. So that's what got me into the industry in the first place was, here's an understanding of how I can put together a record for myself and it not, cost me any money because I'm the one doing it all.
Right.
And then that translated into doing it for other people, and people then were like, yeah, you're doing production, but I understand you write songs too. And then you get drawn into that. And I've always loved just the collaborative process as well of working with other people. So really value feedback and, getting in a room with somebody and bouncing ideas and things like that. So that's been amazing because I've been able to really work with some amazing people in all these different aspects. So I've had people like for instance, Roseanne Baker Thornley, amazing songwriter. I've had the opportunity of working with her and learning from her in the writer's circle. Sitting in on mix sessions with Jeff Wolpert, who is an amazing, accomplished mixing engineer, being able to just learn from him on the fly. And through these collaborations, I've really grown, and then I've been able to pass it on as well to the younger generation as well. So
right. Yeah. And then so a bit on your, I think you were talking about your processes there a little bit. What is your sort of general creative process? Do you have like I do have to do this, or is it more go with the flow? What's your sort of creative process?
I'm very much go with the flow.
Go with the flow
for sure. Every project is totally different. And I would say if I'm working with somebody else, working on my own project, I feel is a different process, which I can come back to. But working with others, it's all about getting to know the person that you're working with. What is their working preference, what's their methodology, what makes them tick as a person, and then trying to align their values with, with what we're doing with the project, and making sure that everything is authentic and it's not kind of put on or anything like that. It comes from a real place. So,
and how do you express that? Like, how do you get that through?
Conversation mostly. Yeah. It's a lot about sitting down with them first. Before we do anything, it's coffee conversations.
Right.
Lots of that time, and then we kind of tiptoe into the process where. So an artist I was working with actually this past week. I'd come in from Vancouver, and we were working on a song, and our first meeting, it was myself and another songwriter. And our first meeting was just getting to know each other.
Right.
And then at the very end of, I think it was 6 hours, we sat down, and a little something came out on the piano and on the voice with the artist through the conversations that we had. And we made some notes, and then we all kind of went away and came back another day and had the whole idea fleshed out. So it was this amazing thing, like through the conversation, it evolved into this organic, like, who are you? What makes you tick? Oh, let's write about that. And it just, again, it's reading the room, being kind of sensitive to who the artist is and what they want to say, what they stand behind and all that stuff. And I think those things really translate into, again, good, authentic music. Because I think that any project that will do well has to be authentic, coming from an authentic place.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I think I find that as well whenever I'm listening to music. Yeah, you can almost tell when it's authentic and it's coming from a good place, and it's really when you hear that you've stumbled across a gem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then a bit on I saw you are also bilingual.
Yes.
And you write music in French.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, is your process when you're writing songs in English versus French, is it different? Or
it is, yeah.
Is it a tough one?
It's similar. I have to say the disclaimer here is my father is or was Quebecois.
Okay.
So he has that French accent from Quebec City, which was kind of Parisien, very sounded like classy French kind of thing. So that's what I heard growing up. But we were raised mostly English at home. Okay. So my brain thinks in English, and then I sort of have to translate a little bit into French. So
gotcha.
So I've written actually 2 songs that I've released now. There's one called Montréal en hiver, which is Montreal in the wintertime.
Right.
The whole describing the charms of Montreal in the winter. Growing up, I grew up in Montreal, and loved it there, but it was cold as heck.
Right.
It was really, really cold. And
colder than here?
Yeah.
Colder here.
Yeah, crazy. At least in those years. I don't know where it is now, but yeah, it was, minus 35 was normal.
Oh.
Kind of thing, waiting for the bus, freezing
That's exciting.
Your butt off. Yeah, it is exciting in one way. Yeah. This is a kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And then just recently released a duet with UK artist Tim Arnold.
Okay.
Called Éclaire-moi. So it's a French language version of his song called Send More Light, which is on the Super Connected album. And so he was doing different language versions and came to me for the French version. And so, I did this thing where, it's you partially translate and then you partially infuse the meaning that makes sense in French into the song. So there's still the essence of the original song. So I was tasked with kind of doing the translation on that. And then we duetted on the track. So that was an interesting experience. But yeah, definitely something where your brain has to think in a different way. Like English is, I hear a catchy phrase. I'm a big punster as well. I love puns.
Right.
So, I hear phrases that rhyme with other phrases and pick them out of the air. And I make notes, on my phone or write them down. about possible song ideas,
Right.
and just the brain is always going with regards to song ideas in English. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And I guess with that, I suppose different languages, different puns and expressions and stuff like that have, you might say, I guess something in French that wouldn't make much sense
hmm
in English, but it's still very poetic in the way it's
yeah,
said or expressed. So I'm sure do you find that
yeah,
you
yeah.
can
That
get
make
some things across
For sure. Yeah,
in
there's an
different languages?
expression, les choses qui se traînent se salissent is an expression in French. It's like things that drag on get dirty, but it doesn't
Oh,
make as much sense in English. But it refers to, if you leave something for too long, it's going to get messy,
right,
kind of thing. But it's not a one for one translate. And so I think of things like that. My dad was always like growing up, he would make jokes that made no sense to me when he would translate them, but he would laugh his butt off about them. And I'm thinking like, this clearly, culturally makes sense for when you're Quebecois.
right, right,
So yeah,
right.
there's always a little bit of a disconnect between languages, but I think that's the charm of it, is
It is.
trying to, merge the worlds and,
Yeah,
you know,
and then they have those lovely little expressions. It's like, no, I'm not fluent in Irish, but obviously we had to study it a lot in
mm,
school, so tons of little proverbs and sayings there. And yeah, one that comes to my mind is in English, it's "May the road rise to meet you."
mm,
Sort of like
yeah, I've heard that one.
good luck on your journey, good
That's
night,
great.
go her lat.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like there's loads of those little expressions that maybe you wouldn't think of saying it like that in
hmm
English, but then in different language, then it just adds a bit of poeticness to
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say poetic for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really
Mhm.
something to be said about tapping into the other cultures when you're
Mm.
making music, and I think travel is really good for that.
Mm.
Getting out of your context. I always find I take trips, and then when I come back, I am always inspired to write a slightly different way, and you sort of get to see life through the eyes of these people who live so differently than you, and so I think that can be a real amazing thing. Get
What's the
exposed.
biggest moment you can remember like that influenced your writing or creative process
Probably,
like that?
I mean, probably going to England, I would say.
Okay.
Same language,
Mm.
but just the essence of the culture there really was something that I don't know. You have a sense when you go to England that it's almost like where music originated from or something. It's like ground zero
Right.
for a lot of the music that I loved growing up, and so
Was it London then or?
London,
Yeah.
yeah, spent some time in Manchester as
Mm.
well,
Yeah, great city.
the Isle of Wight as well,
Oh,
and yeah, just all those things were really, really just interesting to me.
yeah.
And in my context, came back. I think I wrote 3 or 4 songs after my first trip that were just directly inspired by my experience there. So
Wow.
as yet unreleased.
Okay.
But
Watch the space. Watch the space. So I guess on that a little bit, influences then.
Mhm.
What are you, I don't know, like growing up or current influences?
Yeah,
Or what are some of your
uh,
influences?
David Bowie for
Oh,
sure.
of course.
Yeah. I would say obviously the Beatles,
Oh yeah.
Coldplay, U2. Those things were always really heavy rotation growing
Right.
up. And Peter Gabriel has a really special place in my heart.
Okay.
So I love Peter Gabriel. And then recently I've been binge listening to a Norwegian pop star named Dagny.
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 Oh, what sort of genre or vibe is?
She's a really talented singer-songwriter who does, on the surface, sounds very bubblegummy pop,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's a lot deeper than you think.
Okay.
But they're really catchy songs and melodies, very well crafted.
Right.
So I take a lot of inspiration from that because I love to write. I love to write catchy songs,
Mm.
if possible. So yeah, she's great.
Yeah, on the talking about Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, Finland,
Mm.
I seem to see a constant flow of super talented like producers, engineers,
Yes.
all coming out of that region.
Totally.
Why is that? Do you know, or is it just?
I think it's. I mean, I can only hypothesize that it's more, inside hours during the winter or something.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Because I know, like, my most creative time is when the days get shorter.
Okay.
So between the fall and the spring is where the bulk of my writing is, because I'm just inside more. I have time to kind of focus. I don't really want to be outside, in sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah.
But in the springtime, in the summer, I want to be outside.
Yeah.
So I'm not, quite as productive on the music sense, in the music sense, during those times. So I wonder if that's it. You have these long winters, and
It could be.
I don't know.
There's no ABBA effect there anymore.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Well, even I think of with the Netherlands, with the Dutch beat, and all of the what is it, Armin van Buuren and all those,
Oh yeah, huge in the electronic music. Yeah. Well, you got so many artists and DJs that come out of that region that have influenced the scene heavily. Yeah.
I think too, because it's geographically, when you have things kind of concentrated in one area in Europe, things are a little bit closer together. Canada is very spread out, so there's a very, diverse array of styles that come out of Canada. And some of them don't interact at all, and some of them don't even make sense that they're from the same country.
Right.
And then, I guess maybe more concentration in a smaller area.
Yeah.
That's, complete hypothesis. I have no idea if I'm spewing off here. Anything that makes sense. But,
no, it's a good hot take. Good hot take.
Yeah.
So is there any sort of projects you're working on at the minute that you'd like to discuss a little bit or
Yeah,
share, or?
yeah. So for myself, I'm working on my band, My Sugar, our new album. It's our first full studio length album. We did a live album during COVID and a few, singles between then and now.
Right.
And it's our first kind of full length 12-song studio album. It's essentially kind of nouveau stadium rock in a sense. So big anthems,
right?
Big vocals, big guitars, big drums, kind of big everything over the top. It's kind of the Texas of
Nice.
music, if you know what I mean. Everything's bigger in My Sugar Land. So My Sugar. And then I'm working with an artist named Rebecca Sihon.
Okay.
It's spelled Sichon. Rebecca looks like Sichon. And she's a very talented artist out of BC. So she lives in Vancouver. And I've been writing with her and the aforementioned Roseanne Baker Thornley, who is an amazing songwriter. So the two of us get in a room with Rebecca and write, and we've just come up with this amazing song called "Pieces of My Soul." So that's coming out soon. Really excited.
Watch this space.
Yeah. And then I'm working with an artist named Vaxo, who is a rock electronic artist out of Portugal.
Oh, cool.
And by way of Canada. So he lives part-time in Portugal, part-time here. And he's basically now becoming very well recognized there. So our last collaboration was a song called Give Me Life, and it won the basically the Portuguese Grammy. So the Portuguese International Music Awards, which are held in the States. It's a funny thing.
Interesting.
So that won for Best Rock Recording. And then we're doing his follow-up single called Save Me right now.
Okay.
So we're working on that. That's coming out soon. And an artist named Rachel Bond, who's a pop kind of singer-songwriter, authentic pop kind of vibe, but with a tinge of dark pop kind of thrown in. So we just did a single called Snapshot.
Interesting. Dark pop.
Yeah. And again, anytime I'm helping with, like, all of these are projects that I've helped to write the material as well. Again, we're trying to tap into real themes and authenticity. So that project is one where we were tapping into things like the dangers of social media.
No.
And so the song Snapshot's all about, how everything looks really put together in the frame, but if you take a zoom back and you see what's happening around, it's not always as pretty as you think.
Right, right.
Things like that. So yeah, those are the major ones I'm working on some new material for Rats of the Universe, and with just all kinds of stuff.
Busy.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're busy.
Yeah.
So how do you find time to manage?
It's interesting. Yeah, I think I have the mindset of make sure I get a day off every week. And with that said, it makes it a lot easier for me to fit everything into crammed work days where I'm working on sometimes 3 songs a day, that kind of thing. So that's a typical work week for me. And then a lot of mixing and mastering work as well that I'm doing. So I've got collaborators all around the world that, either we use SessionWire. I don't know if you've used SessionWire. It's a fantastic piece of software.
I've definitely heard of it. I haven't looked at it or touched it much. Yeah, but it's a good software.
Yeah, it's a great remote collaboration. It's kind of like Zoom plus high quality audio.
Right.
So it just makes it so easy to collaborate with someone, across the world on something. I've used it with artists in the other side of the country. I've used it with people in LA, England, even do stuff with Japan and stuff like that where we need to get on calls and fly high-res audio across at the same time. So that's been a really great tool. And so the world is getting smaller, but in so doing, we're all getting busier. So that's the challenge. And
good to be busy. You like being busy?
I do, to a degree. I mean, I've got 3 kids and a wife, so I need to make some time for them as well.
Balance.
So balance.
So how do you go about balancing those things? Well, what's your approach to
this is the challenge, right? Like this is a big challenge for all of us now. And I would say what I try to do is I try to keep what I do within a certain range of hours in the day. So I'll wake up really early. I'll get a 3-hour head start before the kids go to school, that kind of thing. I'll work while they're at school. Then I'll take that evening time and spend time with my kids and my wife.
Right.
And then maybe in the evening I'll hit up the studio again, that kind of thing. So the benefits of having a home studio as well now. So this is I can pop down for half an hour and do a quick little revision that I hear in my head and then pop off to bed or something. So it makes it more manageable. So I found like that, reducing commute time and then just the self-discipline enough to really take those moments where, this is my concentrated work time. I'm going to get as much done as I can.
Yeah.
Honing your craft to where you're quick at what you do. So that's something that I've tried to do now for the last 20 some years is become more efficient at what I do so that it frees up more brain space. And in so doing, I feel more rested and ready to tackle the next project.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're not good to yourself, you're pretty much not good to anybody else either.
Right. That makes sense. And then I'm going to ask you, is that something you've learned then sort of over time, like when you were first starting out?
Learned the hard way.
But it was a bit more chaotic, was it?
Yeah, for sure. I remember I was working on, there's an artist named Jordan John, who I recorded 2 albums with, and he's gone on to become the singer of Tower of Power.
Okay.
But at the time, he had just been signed to Universal Verve with David Foster and everything, and so we were working around the clock to get mixes off to all these famous producers and label people and all this kind of stuff. And I remember one session working on some bass parts. I think it was a 24-hour session that just went around the clock. It went from 9 in the morning to 9:30 or something like that the next day.
The next day?
Yeah, no breaks.
So like AM or PM? Like over 24 hours?
24 hours straight up, yeah. So, I mean, that was, when you're working with those high-pressure situations with labels. Another artist I work with, Chris Hart, who is based in Japan. He's with Universal Japan. Those are examples where, the Japanese schedule, they're already printing the booklet and everything. They have a very strict release date, and you need to deliver everything by a certain time.
Okay.
So we'd be, Steve Raymond is my co-producer on that project, and we'd be working around the clock trying to get things out in time, or the label has a last minute request. They want the vocals turned up a little bit, or they have a new addition. They just recorded an orchestra and they need that added to the track,
right.
and you need to mix that in. It needs to be out in the next 12 hours kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that stuff where, it can really throw off your personal balance. But I find those moments are fleeting. They tend to be, just for, a little small, 2 to 3 week period, and then you get back to your regular life. But yeah, in those moments, you have to really just remember that, it's temporary, and you have to play this mind game of get me through,
Right. Do you think something else that plays into that as well? Do you think, when you were younger, do you think you might have just said yes to any gig, and now you're are you a bit more particular about
yes
what you say yes to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's definitely artists that I want to work with.
Yeah.
And then there are artists that approach me, and I really have to weigh my time and
Right.
and efforts and everything like that against, again, how much time I have, and how demanding the project is. And I would say, I think you do in the beginning have to take more projects on just for your resume, just to become,
To pay bills.
pay bills and
Yeah,
become
yeah.
well versed at your craft, put in
Right.
your 10,000 hours. And I cut my teeth on a lot of really bad projects earlier in the day, learning how to do editing for things, bands that couldn't play, and I had to splice every beat together and tune every note on the vocals, and just, it's kind of exhausting, but it really did help my chops,
Right.
getting me to that next
You learned
level.
a lot.
I learned a lot through the process.
Yeah.
And but now I I really, in those cases, I try to pass those projects on to someone who's starting out and needs the experience.
Gotcha.
We'll go there. I really try to pick who I work with carefully. Actually, there's an artist I forgot to mention. Really excited about working with him. He's a folk, indie folk kind of artist who is just this amazing singer. Love the guy to death too. He's just a wonderful soul named M.T. Walker.
M.T. Walker.
M.T. Walker.
Okay.
And he's just the epitome of authentic. Again,
Okay.
I just keep coming back to that word because that's kind of where my hope is that all of the things that I'm associated with land in some authentic place.
Right.
Even if they're fun or whatever, it's just got to come from a real place.
Yeah.
So we did something where it was, I would say it's very much like, it was partly experiment, partly labor of love, partly, just let's see if we can do this. And we took him out. We took all of our recording equipment and the lighting rig and the recording rig for video and everything, on a half-hour hike into the woods
Oh.
to this remote field in a place called Hoggs Falls, Ontario, and found this beautiful setting, set up, and recorded this live EP with him.
Wow.
And it was just, we're talking, he'd do a take all the way through, and we keep it, no editing.
Wow.
This is entirely authentic. And then we released this YouTube / Spotify 5-song EP through this process.
I was going to ask if you did video as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a video.
Exactly.
As well,
Yeah.
Elements as well. Yeah.
Yeah. We started with a making of video was the first week. And then for the next 5 weeks, every Saturday we dropped a video. I think we just dropped the last video 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so it's still fresh. And those songs are going to be recorded in the studio for his full length album.
Okay.
But yeah, I just that was something where, I wouldn't go through all that effort if it wasn't an artist that I absolutely loved and wanted to be associated with, and
Right.
all this stuff. I mean, I feel like you want to see, your values aligning. You want to see your work ethics aligning. You want them to be more excited than anybody about this. And sometimes I felt like in the beginning, when you're working with artists who are maybe not even sure if they want to do this as a living, maybe they're doing a vanity project, you kind of end up kind of pulling them along. I love when artists are the ones who are like, yeah, come on, let's go. This is exciting. Going to promote it. And then I can cross promote it on my platforms, and we can, again, that that community aspect is everything. But it really, you have to find that alignment and find your people and who you're comfortable working with. And for everyone, that's a bit of a different person, but find your team. So we've been working together since 2014,
Wow.
10 years now, in various capacities. Mike and I, MT Walker, and it's just it's just great because it's just automatic. I know what he likes. He knows what I'm bringing to the table. We come together and we make something that's hopefully like an amplified version of himself. It's not again, it's not off brand in any way. It's like, this is him and this is what he does. How can we amplify him? He'd pull out his acoustic guitar on the sofa next to you and sing to you. How do you get that vibe happening, but just amplify it a little bit so that the broader audience can hear it and understand it, and
right
in that way where they can really receive it,
Yeah, hear that authenticity as you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, that's the goal.
So you touched a little bit on their community. Could be a good segue into Sleepless Studios here now.
Yeah.
So this is
Love it.
This is your first time here.
It's my first time. Thank you so much for the tour.
No problem. Glad to. Obviously, we met at a Canadian Music Week a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we got chatting, and I was telling you about this, and said we should have you down and get you on this now. But
this is
this
awesome.
is the first time. What do you think? What do you think so far?
I love it. I feel like you've put a lot of great preparation into this, and I think that's the key for success is being just organized, prepared, and the fact that you can book on the app.
Yeah.
You can rent your studio at any time of day.
Right.
You can have co-working, you can have private working.
Yeah.
The fact that I love the co-working space in the middle, in the big loft space, to be able to network with people. The fact that you have so many kinds of disciplines together in one area, I love that as well. So.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned to you before, we really wanted to be a super collaborative space where multiple disciplines and people can just like come together and collaborate on all different sorts of projects. And awesome. We got big plans. So we definitely put a good bit of thought into what we've done here so far. But then we've been getting lots of great constructive feedback at the minute. So we'd love to hear from you guys, so keep the feedback coming. So we'll definitely be implementing that as well over the next coming weeks.
That's great.
And looking forward to see how Sleepless Studios develops now.
Yeah, run by one of the nicest guys in the music industry right here, Thomas.
Stop. You barely know me.
You're a pretty nice guy.
Yeah.
You're a pretty nice guy.
But what do you think? I gave you the tour. What do you think is your favorite room?
Probably the recording studio, just because that's my world.
That's your world.
So I'd come in, write some songs, dock the laptop, and just kind of get out of my little bubble and come out in the world and make some music. That's what I love about being out in different studios. I mean, this really is just a change of mind, right? Like, it's getting out of your own head, which I think we all kind of were guilty of during COVID, especially.
Right.
We all built, home setups so that we didn't have to go anywhere because we couldn't for a long time. And then I think people are rediscovering, getting out and going into community. And it's a very powerful, powerful thing to be surrounded by people. The not only just, sounding boards, hey, do you mind coming in here and grabbing a listen? What do you think of that? Or, hey, I heard you do this, and, maybe we can help each other. Like, whatever it is, it's actually just inspiring to be around people.
Yeah, exactly.
For me anyways.
Exactly.
And, as much of I would call myself a high functioning introvert in some ways, where I need that recharge time, but I really, really love people's energy and friendships and things that you can only get sort of in community.
Yeah. So
you guys building that is so important, I think, for the larger community in Toronto, I think, which is lacking, I think, a lot in that. It's very insular in many ways.
Yeah, that seems to be a little bit what we heard. I think we noticed that as well when we were coming up with the idea for here as well, that Toronto. I don't think Toronto's the only city that needs a space like this. Let's say that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Toronto definitely needed a space where, yeah, creatives of all sorts can come together, have a space where they feel like safe and welcome and affordable as well. So
100%.
yeah, so we're happy that we can offer that now, and yeah, we just want to keep it going. And like I said, big plans. Hopefully, we'll be coming to a city near you in not too distant future. So
I love it.
yeah, that's the plan.
So good.
Yeah. Okay, and then
Yeah.
that takes us to I guess our final segment of the podcast, our hot take wheel. Here she is, the hot take wheel.
What is this thing?
So basically, it's got a bunch of hot takes on it, or topics. We'll just call it topics, and you give it a spin, and then we sort of discuss what it might land on.
All right.
And see what your thoughts are.
Sounds good.
Agree, disagree, whatever.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to give it a little spin there.
All right.
Oh, sorry. My hand was stuck there.
No worries.
Give it a little spin there. Okay. Oh, we had that one before, actually. We'll spin again.
We'll keep going.
Take two. Oh, interesting. Cereal is soup.
It's definitely dessert soup.
Oh, dessert soup.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And the fact that it's cold?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
That's
it
fine.
wasn't, is it a gazpacho cold?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think that qualifies. I mean, if you leave it, it could be debated if you eat it immediately that it perhaps
Yeah, 'cause
is
would you say a soup
solid
is
food.
lumpy soup?
Yeah, all the soups I love are lumpy.
Oh, lumpy.
For
like,
sure.
Like a minestrone or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a few puree soups that I like, but really the hearty ones are full of, vegetable-like objects.
Right.
So
Right. And are you a cereal kind of? I know some people are really into their cereal. Are you?
Yeah,
do
I'm
you like
not.
cereal?
I mean, the normal amount, I would
The
say.
normal amount.
I like some multigrain Cheerios.
Right. Oh, multigrain Cheerios.
Muesli, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've
Nothing
never-
too crazy.
Yeah, I've never been overly into cereal. I don't think. I remember. Yeah, I'd have some Weetabix. Did they do?
Oh,
they have
yeah.
Weetabix here, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here and there, that'd be nice with a bit of milk and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Shredded wheat used to be the
Shredded
thing
wheat.
back in the day. Little, you pour the hot water on it, and then you
Yeah.
sprinkle the brown sugar, and then you add the milk to that,
Right.
and then I don't know what that is. That's it's like a loaf in your bowl or something.
Right. Yeah. That's and then there's stuff like, I like the odd bowl of porridge here
Yep.
and there as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat a bit of porridge, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
during the winter.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
nice.
actually, this is an insult that is used to describe bad porridge. It's like really soupy. Oh, right.
Right.
So I think it could be reasoned that cereal is soup.
So cereal is soup,
According to me,
according to Ben.
it's soup.
Cereal is soup. Well, there we go. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming in and taking the
Yeah.
time to
Thanks for having me,
chat to us
Thomas.
here. I'll make sure to put all Ben's socials and everything in the description below. But if there's any specific page or anything
just,
you want people to check out.
At Ben Pelchat on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then, website benpelchat.com. And on Spotify, you can check out My Sugar and
Yeah,
all
great.
that good stuff.
Yeah, and then if anyone has any questions for Ben or anything, feel free to send them our way. We'll make sure he gets them. But until then, we'll see you next time. Sleep well.